What is going on, everyone? My name is John Dawson, and in today's video, we are hopping into my top 10 rookie wide receivers post NFL draft for the 2023 fantasy football season. If you guys do enjoy free fantasy football content, whether it be redraft, dynasty, or best ball content, we do all three all year round. So if you do enjoy today's video, I would greatly appreciate if you guys hit that subscribe button and consider leaving a thumbs up down below. Feel free to drop any comments or questions pertaining to the 2023 fantasy football season down below as well. Without further ado, let's not waste any time. Let's hop right into our top 10 rookie wide receivers. At number 1, there's no surprise here. It's going to be JSN. He lands with the Seattle Seahawks. I personally think this was a very good landing spot for JSN. I do know there are some fantasy managers out there who are a little bit more concerned that he won't step right into a wide receiver 1 position in terms of his overall volume from a fantasy perspective, but I personally think this is a very good landing spot with DK Metcalf lining up as the wide receiver 1 and Tyler Lockett lining up as the wide receiver 2. This will allow JSN to move into a slot position. And throughout JSN's collegiate career, he ran 83% of his routes out of the slot. So I really think this is actually a nice landing spot. On top of that, there's really no pressure for JSN to perform because he's got 2 stud wide receivers in front of him on the roster. And on top of that, defenses are going to be looking at covering Metcalf and covering Lockett because they do not have an option to not do so. Things are going to really open up for JSN throughout the course of the season. If you look at JSN's collegiate tape throughout his career, I mean, he just made everything look easy, was surrounded by a good team. Don't get me wrong, was surrounded by other good wide receivers, but JSN, an absolute stud, easily the number 1 receiver in this draft, and easily our number 1 receiver in terms of rookies heading into the 2023 fantasy football season. All right, number 2 overall, I've got Jordan Adisson. I do think the next couple receivers you could definitely argue in terms of where you want to rank them, but I like Adisson at number 2 at the moment because we know that the Minnesota Vikings want to throw the football. That is what Kevin O'Connell's offense is based off of. We know there's a stable quarterback in Kirk Cousins within this offense. Plus, you've got Justin Jefferson lining up on the other side. Defenses have to account multiple defenders for Justin Jefferson. KJ Osborne as well as TJ Hawkinson are also nice receiving pieces for this team. So Adisson steps into a role similar to JSN where there's not a ton of pressure on him and defenses have to account for other offensive weapons. Adisson is a smaller receiver, but he makes up for it with his ability to create separation. He's a fast receiver, and I do think while he could add some weight throughout the offseason, if he is left in man-to-man coverage, he will absolutely torch opposing defenses. So I do like Adisson at number 2, even if he doesn't have all the traits of a prototypical wide receiver 1. I don't think he needs to be a wide receiver 1 for the Vikings at all to be efficient and to be successful in the NFL. So he comes in as my wide receiver 2 for our rookie rankings headed in to the 2023 fantasy football season. Third overall, I've got Quentin Johnston, who lands with the Los Angeles Chargers. I really love this landing spot for Quentin Johnston. Similar to the first 2 receivers we talked about, Johnston steps into a role where you've got Keenan Allen lining up and Mike Williams lining up, plus a gunslinger in Justin Herbert at the quarterback position. So we do know there's some injury concerns around Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. That could be good in terms of Johnston's overall volume, and it could be good in terms of Johnston not having as much defensive pressure when he lines up. And overall, when you look at Johnston's collegiate career, when you look at his tape, he is fearless coming off the line of scrimmage. I really think he could be one of the best rookie receivers out of this entire draft class, especially if he lines up on the outside. He will be a nightmare in matchups. I think that Johnston is in line to have a very productive NFL career. And the more and more I think about this draft afterwards, I really am liking Quentin Johnston as we approach the 2023 fantasy football season. So he comes in as my rookie wide receiver 3. All right, number 4 overall, I've got Zay Flowers, who lands with the Baltimore Ravens. I'm a big fan of Zay Flowers because this guy is just so incredibly fast. He is quick at every break. If he does not want an opposing defender on him, chances are those opposing defenders are going to be left behind. Flowers will have the company of Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham, and Mark Andrews on the field, plus Lamar Jackson at the quarterback position. So I do think he is in a position to succeed within this offense. We know that the Ravens have a new offensive coordinator, so hopefully they are going to be throwing the football much more than the past couple of seasons. If we're going to make a knock on Flowers, it's his route running overall, but I think that can be polished up. Plus, the skill set that he has, the speed that he has, I mean, it really overshadowed any knocks you could have on him in his collegiate career. So I do think that Flowers is in a nice landing spot with the Baltimore Ravens, has an incredible skill set, and will have a productive rookie season. He comes in as my wide receiver rookie number 4, headed into the 2023 fantasy football season. Number 5 overall, we've got Jalin Hyatt, who lands with the New York Giants. Listen, this is a very crowded wide receiver room when we look at it on paper. You still got Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard there. On top of that, the Giants added wide receiver Paris Campbell in the offseason. Plus, you still got Wandale Robinson on this team, as well as Isaiah Hodgins, who had some nice flashes at the end of last offseason. On top of that, the Giants added Darren Waller at the tight end position, and Saquon Barkley is more than capable of catching the football out of the backfield. So there's a lot of targets to go around within the Giants offense that definitely took a step forward last season, but Hyatt just brings a tremendous amount of upside. He kind of slid back in the draft a little bit, which was a little bit surprising when we look at some of the other receivers taken off the board before him, but I think this was a good landing spot in terms of him being able to show that upside, because there's so many other wide receivers on this team. I do think you can certainly argue that overall volume could be an issue within this offense. I like Hyatt as an upside option, brings a lot of speed to the table, brings a lot of big time play ability to the table. I do think he could certainly carve out a very nice role within the Giants offense. He comes in as my wide receiver 5 for our rookie rankings at wide receiver headed into the 2023 fantasy football season. All right, number 6 overall, I've got Josh Downs, who lands with the Indianapolis Colts. This has certainly been the most concerning aspect of Downs post NFL draft, is the fact that he lands with the Colts. Will have Anthony Richardson as the starting quarterback, according to the Colts, who's had some accuracy issues throughout his collegiate career. Plus, he's just going to have those growing pains of having a rookie quarterback as his quarterback overall. But I love Josh Downs, one of my favorite prospects coming in to the season. I just can't help but rank him as high as I've got him. I do think you could argue that with Downs and Richardson coming in to the league at the same time, they could certainly develop a nice chemistry together. So I do think that's a positive. Over time, I think that Downs will have a nice career with the Colts. He's a slot receiver. This is a PPR guy, but overall, I just really like Downs as a prospect. So I got him at number 6 overall, and I would be pretty confident going out and acquiring Downs, but I would just keep in mind that it could take some time for him to really pick up steam. So just don't give up on him if he is somebody that you end up selecting in a rookie draft or a startup draft moving into the dynasty seasons. And if you get him in redraft, I don't know, we might want to just kind of sit back and see how he does, and then get him off the waiver wire if need be. Overall, Downs a little bit of a smaller prospect, and slot receivers in the NFL are continuing to get bigger and bigger. So some of that size could affect Downs, but man, he is a very polished wide receiver overall. Very good hands and a quick, shifty guy. I think he's going to make some good plays throughout the season. And even if it takes a little bit of time, I believe in Josh Downs for the long term. So he comes in as my rookie wide receiver 6 moving into the 2023 fantasy football season. All right, next up on the list at number 7, we've got Marvin Mims, who lands with the Denver Broncos. A relatively crowded wide receiver room with Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick coming back. Obviously, Jerry Jeudy had his 5th-year option picked up. Got KJ Hamler there, and then you've got the emergence of tight end Greg Dulcich. You've got Russell Wilson at the quarterback position. He definitely struggled last season, to say the least. But if you have any faith in this offense taking a positive step forward with new head coach Sean Payton, then I do think we can look at Marvin Mims as a talented enough receiver who brings enough upside to your roster to go ahead and target. We look at Mims in his collegiate career. He went for more than 1,000 receiving yards in his final season with Oklahoma. Plus, he averaged 19.5 yards per catch throughout his entire collegiate career. He's definitely a receiver who has the skill set to succeed in the NFL. We're just going to have to see how does he develop with quarterback Russell Wilson. But I do think when we look at this offense, there are enough wide receivers there that Marvin Mims can step on in the field and not acquire a ton of defensive pressure, be able to show that skill set as long as he develops correctly, could be a very consistent piece in both real life football and fantasy football. So Marvin Mims comes in as my wide receiver 7 for my rookie wide receivers moving into the 2023 fantasy football season. All right, number 8 overall, I've got Jonathan Mingo, who lands with the Carolina Panthers. When we look at the Panthers right now, you got Adam Thielen there, you got DJ Chark there, and you've got Hayden Hurst there, as well as Terrace Marshall Jr. And obviously, you have new rookie quarterback Bryce Young. It's not 100% certain that Bryce Young's going to be the starter week 1, but at the end of the day, I would expect Young to be the primary starter this season. And we talked about Richardson coming into the league with Josh Downs. Well, I do think the fact that Young and Mingo are coming out of the same draft class together, they could definitely establish a nice chemistry overall. So I do think that's a positive. When we look at Mingo's collegiate career, it's relatively limited. But when we look at his senior season, he definitely had a lot of improvement. 51 catches for 861 receiving yards. He's a big-bodied receiver, almost kind of reminds me of Deebo Samuel. So I do kind of wonder how they will utilize his overall skill set and the fact that he's literally just built like a running back. So Mingo, a little bit of uncertainty when we look at some of the inconsistencies on his collegiate tape, but overall, I do think that Mingo could be a very nice addition and have that growing chemistry with Bryce Young. So he comes in as my wide receiver 8 for our rookie wide receiver rankings moving into the 2023 fantasy football season. All right, number 9 overall, I've got Rashee Rice headed to the Kansas City Chiefs. This is kind of a polarizing wide receiver to talk about. There are a lot of fantasy managers out there already warning you to be spooked about Rashee Rice, and there's a lot of fantasy managers out there telling you Rashee Rice is going to be one of the best values in terms of rookie wide receivers this coming season. He could either be the next Sky Moore, who had a very, very unproductive, disappointing rookie season, even if he played well in the playoffs or the Super Bowl, or he could kind of reach a ceiling of like a Juju Smith-Schuster and what we saw in his season with the Chiefs last year. I mean, obviously we know Travis Kelce is going to get a bulk of the volume in terms of the passing game, and we know that the way that Andy Reid's offense works is that nobody is really a true wide receiver one unless you have a player like Tyreek Hill on the roster. The volume is spread out. So I certainly understand the concerns about Rashee Rice. But once again, similar to a lot of the other rookies on this list, you've got a lot of skilled players lining up. Kadarius Toney, MVS, Sky Moore, who's expected to take on a larger role next season. Travis Kelce's there. The run game should be established with Pacheco and the re-signing of Jerick McKinnon. Then obviously, this is Andy Reid's offense led by quarterback Patrick Mahomes. So the upside is definitely present, but the risk is also present as well. I personally am willing to take the risk. I'm willing to take a player who is tied to an Andy Reid offense, but I definitely understand why there are fantasy managers a little bit hesitant around Rashee Rice, especially with what we saw out of Sky Moore in his rookie season. Overall, Rice is a good contested ball guy. He's very good at contested catches overall, which I think could be huge. I think Mahomes could give him a lot of opportunities. He's good at yards after the catch. He is good at breaking tackles, and he has great body control overall. I think his skill set is pretty unique. Not necessarily the best overall athlete, but he definitely makes up for it with his ability to go out and get those contested footballs. So I like Rashee Rice. There's some risk here. Let me know in the comments down below. Are you for drafting Rashee Rice right now, or are you far more hesitant and you don't even have him on your draft board? Overall, he comes in as my rookie wide receiver 9 headed into the 2023 fantasy football season. All right, number 10 overall might surprise you a little bit. There's definitely a lot of names that you could argue for at number 10, but I'm going to go with Jayden Reed, who lands with the Green Bay Packers. I mean, I know Christian Watson's there. I know Romeo Doubs is there. Plus, the Packers added tight end Luke Musgrave in the draft. Top of that, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon have some pass catching ability, but I really like what Jayden Reed could do within this offense. A very, very good route runner, a good slot type receiver, very productive career from his freshman year in college all the way through the rest of his collegiate career. So I like Reed a lot. I just think he's going to fit into this offensive scheme nicely. Plus, we know that the Packers want to throw the football under head coach Matt LaFleur, and we know that with the Jordan Love experiment being on the line, yeah, there's a little bit of risk here if it doesn't work out, but we know that the Packers are going to throw the football a lot. So I do think that Jayden Reed could be in a good opportunity. Plus, I like Christian Watson as much as the next guy. He's a great upside type receiver. And I do like Romeo Doubs, but there isn't 100% a true wide receiver one on this team. So I think that all options are on the table, which could set up Reed for a very nice rookie season overall. He comes in as my rookie wide receiver 10 moving into the 2023 fantasy football season. And that'll wrap up today's video. If you guys did enjoy the content or find it helpful, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button down below. We do free fantasy football content all year long, dynasty, redraft, and best ball. So if you enjoy free fantasy football content, hit that subscribe button, do me a favor, and hit that like button on the way out as well. Please feel free to drop any comments, questions, concerns pertaining to the 2023 fantasy football season down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. With that, I'll say thank you guys so much for watching and or listening, and remember, you saw it here on The Catch.